So Injustice 2 released 8 years ago now, which is mental, and that was the final game in the series. They haven't done one since, and if you don't know, it's a sequel to the first game, Injustice Gods Among Us, which came out in 2013, so it was quite a big gap in a way between the two games, and I have yet to play either of them until now. In fact, I didn't even really know what it was about and what sort of gameplay style it was. I only just found out recently that it is a fighting game. For some reason I pictured it being open world and more action adventure sort of style, but it is a proper fighting game, like a, Mortal Kombat or a Street Fighter, when it's all one-on-one combat, so it's a character via character, and it's all based inside the DC universe, so you're using all the iconic characters you can even think of. And in my experience with the game, I completed the whole entire story, so I played through the story mode, and that's what this review is going to focus on. I will mention the online and the multiplayer side, because I tend to, if I do these reviews and a game has a story, then that will be the main focus. Of course, if it doesn't and the only option is multiplayer, then of course I will do that. And I also feel like, and maybe, some people may think different, most people are here for the story. I think that's the main focus of the game, and the multiplayer is just a side thing, and that's the whole point of it being a sequel to the first game. And it's funny, and I do this quite a lot when I do play the later game rather than the first one, so the storylines do actually somewhat connect, and it does follow on from the first game, but I haven't played that one. So who knows, maybe in the future I'll go back to the 2013 one. So for now I just have played 2, and technically that is just half the story. But I mean, you can always play it in whatever order you want. I mean, I still understood the story, and it's still easy to learn if you don't play the first game. And I also feel like because it's newer, it's more popular, it's more polished, whereas I'm sure the first game is great as well, but I feel like more people are looking to play this one. So in terms of the story of Injustice 2, it's sort of hard to explain the game without spoiling it, because there's so many twists and turns, as well as a bunch of different characters. It'll probably take quite a long time to do so. One thing to mention is that they do nail this comic book storyline, where it's not just a clear, linear timeline. It's just this wild journey that goes a bit all over the place. So at the end of the game, you just sort of realise that it was all a bit of fun. And of course, the DC fans are going to love it no matter what. You already know you have an amazing cast and characters, and I mean, how many superhero, especially DC, fighting games actually are there? You just know that for major DC fans, this is going to be the best one. But I feel like for people that are watching this video, if they are a big fan, then they've most likely already played the game. So to the ones that have played, I can clearly say now that this is definitely worth replaying, because in the story, you may remember that you had to choose between the selection of characters at certain points. So you sort of control the story in a way. I know you're only just choosing who you want to play as in the fight, but it's cool having that responsibility, and that also brings me back to the replayability, because there's so many hidden cutscenes from characters I didn't choose, as well as actually playing against them with other characters. So after your first run through of the story, there's still a huge chunk you've missed out on, and you can only do it again by replaying it. But if I had to simplify the story, and I mean really simplify it because it's just too complex to give it justice, Brainiac is the main villain in this game, and then I guess the main protagonist would be Batman. But you really can't say that because you play as every single one of them. It's just a case that he builds the team, and he's at the center of it all, trying to sort of build the kingdom to then take down Brainiac in a sense. And to me, I think the main aspect of this game that I loved was the gameplay. It was cool, seeing the story play out and how after every fight it just merges into a cutscene, and that's how it all sort of blends together. Obviously, I didn't see the story as a really important thing, because when playing through it, I just saw it as extra context for who I'm fighting and a bit of fun. Nothing to truly grip me into, so it was really the gameplay that I loved. I would say the gameplay is easy to understand. There's a few difficulty levels that you can choose from, but even on the easiest, there is a bit of a challenge there, which is good because it'll be quite boring if there wasn't. And it does take quite a long time to sort of learn all the moves and all the weaknesses of them and the strengths, but that's because there's so many characters you're fighting, and they all have so many different movements and combos, which then makes for such a variety in their playstyles and difficulty. You have heavier and stronger types, and then there's ones that are more agile and fast, fast. And then some might not be that crazy from the start, but it may just be one move that is so overpowered. So you can spend a long time getting to grips with the characters and learning them. It's just fun to see how they all fit in some way. Some more than others, but it is good at giving, you know, somewhat context to them. I mean, to me, I'm not a massive DC fan. I watched a few films and that's about it. So I don't know all the characters off by heart. I mean, I guess it can be a bit overwhelming seeing all of them and not really knowing who they are to a new player, because the story is just a small cutscene between each fight. It's sort of difficult to give backstory to every single character in depth. Now, if you've never played a fighting game before like this, similar to me before this, you play it by different combinations of either keys or buttons depending on what you're playing on. And just to mention, I have actually played on both keyboard and controller. However, I haven't played on controller in about 2.5 years, so I guess controller is easier for the majority of people. But because I was so used to keyboard, I still preferred it somehow. But fighting games are sort of made to be played on a controller. It's much easier to use the buttons when they're so close together. So of course, you then make different combos and a build up of attacks. And on the menu, it will show you all the combinations and the moves you can use for that character, with each one varying. There's a ton to learn, and there's also special moves to implement, and you can interact with parts of the environment. There is a few moments where both of the characters clash together, and you have to sort of sync up a series of buttons to gain either an attack boost or defense. There's also the super meter, which when it's fully charged, it makes your special moves even stronger, and also allows you to use a big super move when it's fully charged, with it taking you into a designated cutscene for each character. And some are really unique, where Superman shoots you up to the sky and down again, and then Flash ramming you into the building of the Sphinx. It actually breaks the nose, so that's why it looks like that today, I assume. You can dodge and you can roll depending on what the move is, because some you can't stop. It is really in-depth and never really gets boring, with it taking quite a while to master it all. And that is the thing, it doesn't matter if you're a pro at the game or a beginner, because in all honesty, I'm not very good at this game, as you may be able to tell from some of the gameplay. I still had a ton of fun playing it. Of course, I completed the story in full, so it means I took down every character, so as long as you go through each one, it doesn't matter how you play at all. But I'm sure there's a massive skill gap in this game. I'm sure many amazing players are out there. It's also kind of addicting in a way, because I finished the story within a day, I think, and I never usually do that. But to be honest, the story is fairly short. I think it's about 6 or 7 hours, but that brings me back to the replayability, where you can keep on going over it, as there's so many mixes of two characters that I haven't yet used. I also want to mention the visuals of this game, and bear in mind it came out almost 8 years ago. It looks incredible, and it was something about 2017, and I've noticed that a lot by doing these videos. For some reason, so many games that came out that year just look so good now. Now, of course, for this one it's a bit different, because it's not like an open world game. You can't move the camera 360, so then that allows them to spend more time on it looking so good in terms of the lighting and the colour and just the detail they put into it, because it's such a small backdrop in the game with such a small surface. They can easily put a ton of detail into it. And then that also goes the same with the actual characters. Almost all of them look so detailed. I love the designs in them. There's so much variation in all of them. Not one of them looks similar. The same goes with the animations in the gameplay. They look so smooth, so it's great to play. However, the actual cutscenes, I believe, and they must be capped at 30 FPS. And it may not be a big deal, but it does mean that it's never that smooth going from gameplay to the cutscene, just that transition. It could be worse, because the actual gameplay is capped to 60 FPS, which was a bit strange to me, but then I saw that most fighting games are capped. But just to point it out for anyone that didn't know, I also want to talk about the customization of Injustice 2. There's so much to take in here. I mean, I thought it would just be a different outfit for each character like usual, but you can actually build your own by choosing each costume piece, from the masks to the helmets and chest plates, the leg and the arm armor, and then you can also change the color combination of each one. And they do change the gameplay as well, with stronger pieces of armor and gear, even the weapons as well. There's so much to unpack and just adds on to the replaying of the game. And I think that's where I end my review of Injustice 2 in 2025. I definitely recommend it. I had a ton of fun playing this game. Definitely holds up now. So if you did enjoy this video, then let me know by tapping that like button down below. And if you enjoy single player and also multiplayer games as well, then that's what this channel does focus on. I have multiple playlists on a selection of games, so you can subscribe to the channel if you'd like to. And if you'd like to support me any further by becoming a member of the channel at either level 1 or 2 to gain access to various perks, then tap the join button on the channel. Thank you all for the support and watching until the very end. And that was Injustice 2 in 2025, and bye bye.